We're back on a Gen 5. This happens to be a late model JK with an LT1 8L90. And I gotta say, I think this combination is probably the top of the line for the JK engine conversion world. And that includes Hemis and everything else. This engine's got so much power, so much torque. Look at merging on the freeway here, just touching the throttle. There's zero drama. And it just pulls you like you're being pushed by some hand from behind. So this video, we're going to talk a little bit about LT engine choices because it's definitely different than the Gen 4s. With the Gen 4s, you have some distinct engine performance options. You have the 5.3s, and I guess we could lump the 4.8 into that. You have the 6.0, which is in the middle, and then you have the 6.2s, the all-aluminum 6.2s. And each has their strength. The 5.3, 4.8s run on regular gas. They're less expensive. The downside to the 5.3 and 4.8 is they just don't have the torque that some of the heavy JKs require. If you look how effortless this LT1 goes up this parkway, literally shifting into 8th gear at 1600 RPM with zero drama. Now a 5.3 Gen 4, while it would pull this JK up this parkway with no problem, it would be downshifting into 5th. It would be revving up a little bit more. So the Gen 4 5.3 did not make the best engine for a heavy JK, especially one that ran long mountain grades, towed a trailer, ran at high altitude. So we shied away from the 5.3 in those situations. The 6.0 did make a good engine for heavier JKs, still ran on regular gas and was economical. Some of the downsides of the 6.0 is it was from a heavy-duty truck. It did have an iron block, so it was a little bit heavier than the all-aluminum engines. It did not have high compression nor the performance of the 6.2s. It was set up to haul weight, so while it was a great expedition engine, it could haul your JK at freeway speeds comfortably. If we move into the Gen 4 6.2, they were awesome engines. I have one in my personal JK. Over 400 horsepower, they did require premium gas. They had more power than the JK really needed. So as we move into the Gen 5s, I don't think the choices are as distinct. And what I mean by that is, if you look at the Gen 5 engines that we're using, essentially the L83, which is the 5.3 all-aluminum truck engine, the L86, which is the all-aluminum 6.2 truck engine, and the LT1, which is the all-aluminum Corvette Camaro engine, they're all direct injection, they're all high compression, they all have continuous variable valve timing, and all of them, in my opinion, have enough power to move a JK. Even if you get an L83, we're finding that it can haul a heavier JK. Because of the technology in the Gen 5, you have a lot more torque than you had in the Gen 4 5.3. So you can get an all-aluminum Gen 5 5.3, put it in a heavier JK with 40s, and it's still going to perform great on the highway. So the choice really comes down to, do you need a Gen 5 6.2? The 6.2s are awesome. The Gen 5 direct injected 6.2s, in my opinion, have more power than a JK needs. The LT1 especially is compact, has got 460 horsepower according to GM, but really that's not where it's at. Where it's at is the torque. These engines just have so much torque, and as I drive this JK on the freeway, it's almost funny that I'm just touching the throttle and moving this JK at freeway speeds with zero stress. It's almost like I've got an 8-liter engine. So the LT1's got more than enough power. Now you want more power, you got the LT4, you got the LT5, you can cam an LT, etc. But really, I think what it comes down to is going to be two engines. The LT1, and I'll give you the reasons for that, and the L83. Let's start with the L83. The L83, like I say, is the base engine in a lot of the new Gen 5 truck. It is readily available. The prices have come down dramatically. In the early days of our swaps, we were paying over $6,000 for an L83 engine. Now you can pick them up for less than half that. The 5.3 L83 with the CVVT and direct injection has really good torque and about 350 horsepower. So it's got enough performance for most JKs. The drivability on the 5.3 is pretty much perfect. I've driven with both 6 speeds and 8 speeds. Try picking up a powertrain from a later model vehicle. So I find that the 5.3 8-speed is going to be the engine of choice for most guys. It's got enough power, it's low cost, it can run on regular gas, it's got excellent drivability. I just don't see you doing much better than the L83 today given the other engine options out there. And I'm talking superchargers, Hemis, LSs, you name it. The 5.3 8-speed, in my opinion, is the perfect combination for the JK as a base engine. Now, a lot of you guys are going to want more power than that. So, of course, we can move into the 6.2 LTs. 6.2 JKs are going to give you that hot rod feeling. The drivability is extremely mild. In fact, if you look at this JK I'm driving right now, I can barely tell the engine's running. It's idling at 500 RPM. With this 8-speed transmission, just breathing on the throttle makes this thing jump to life. You're going to pay for the 6.2 versus the 5.3. The cost of the engine is going to be higher. I do like the 8-speed transmissions now. If you can find a 6-speed 6.2 or 5.3, it's still a great engine for your JK, but I think the 8-speeds are proving themselves, and having that 4.6 low first gear, when you have 40 or 42-inch tires, that could be the difference between launching out of the hole with a lot of zip versus doggy. And you guys with 40s know what I'm talking about. The flip side of the 8-speed is when you get it on the highway, that RPM drops right down. And I've got some JKs with LTs running 1500 RPM at 75 miles an hour. Now, you don't want to overgear your LT because it will drop down a gear and you'll run in 7th or 6th. You want to gear it properly, but the reality is that you can put an 8-speed in with larger tires and get better performance and economy than you can with the 6-speed at this point, in my opinion. So, the LT is king of the hill as far as engine conversions go. And it's not just me saying that. Look what's going on around, not just in the Jeep world, but in the engine performance world. Guys are figuring out these LTs are monsters, and GM has held them back. The full capability of these engines has not been realized yet. If you want more power than you probably need, and you never want to regret saying, hey, I could have had a 6.2, just get an LT1. You can buy an LT1 brand new from GM Performance. You can buy a brand new 8 L90, and you're going to have performance like nothing else that's out there. Down the road, if you want to add a supercharger, cam, whatever, you can, but I think most of you are going to find that the standard LT1 is more than enough. You got 40-inch tires, you remove torque management, you can start breaking Dana 60s and Dana 70s with an LT1. If your expectations are a little more realistic, then get the L83 5.3. It's more than enough for most JKs. It's got plenty of power, economy is good, the cost is low, you can run regular gas in it, and I'll tell you, it really surprises you how hard an L83 pulls. If you took an L83 with an 8-speed and you put it up against a Gen 4 5.3, there would be no comparison. If you put it up against a 6.0, I would say they'd be pretty similar, but I think the L83 would take it, especially with the 8-speed. And you could even compare it to the 6.2. I think the L83 performance falls somewhere between a Gen 4 6.0 and a Gen 4 6.2. And that's saying a lot given the displacement of that engine. It's technology that does it. If we had to compare the L83 to a Hemi, I'm going to say the L83 is probably going to perform or outperform most of the 5.7 Hemis. It's not going to outperform a 6.4, but given the cost and the drivability, which is virtually perfect, that's saying a lot. So at Motec, we're gearing up for these Gen 5. We really think that these Gen 5s are going to be the future of engine conversions, not only for JKs, but for other vehicles. We want everything to work exactly the way it was intended. Now, I'm going to say this. I was driving a 2016 Cadillac Escalade around last weekend, and while it was a great vehicle, I've got to say that I think our JKs run better. That Cadillac ran very good, but when you get in a JK with an LT, you're connected to that motor. You don't have this giant boat of a vehicle that isolates you from the engine. So at Motec, we're moving towards these Gen 5s. We want to incorporate these Gen 5s into the JK properly, which we've been doing for 2 years now. We've already got an LT and a JL, which we haven't talked about a lot, but we'll be doing some videos on that soon. Of course, we're going to support the JT, and we're going to do this at OE of a level as we can, meaning no hacks, no workarounds, actually work within the CAN bus. I've been driving these LT JKs, like I said, now for 2 years. So in this video, I'm not going to talk a whole lot about tech and why the LT does what it does. I'm just going to say that the LT, in my opinion, has arrived, and it doesn't really matter which one you go with. You can go with the L83, you can go with the LT1, and I did say that I wanted to back up and talk about the LT1 a little. It is available new from General Motors through GM Performance as a complete production engine. What that means is it's fully dressed. You've got your injectors, intake, water pump, everything is on it. It's not just a long block. You can't buy an L86 in that configuration, unfortunately. So this does give the nod to the new LT1. The new LT1 has dropped in price dramatically, and I'm talking thousands of dollars $100 versus just a year ago. You can now pick up an LT1 for near or lower than LS3 prices, and that's just ridiculous. Why are you going to buy a 10-year-old engine when you can pick up the latest and greatest high-tech engine for the same price, especially when you combine that with a new 8-speed transmission? And don't knock the 8L90. It's rated for over 700 foot-pounds of torque. It's not like the new 8-speed that comes in the JL that's only rated for about 350 pounds of torque. It can take the horsepower, it can take the torque and put it to the ground. Yes, there were some issues with the 8L90 early on, but I must say that it is rapidly becoming my favorite transmission. We have yet to see what the 10L90 is going to do, but in the meantime, the 8L90, in my opinion, again, is top of the line. When you compare this 8L90 to the 6L80, there are some improvements, but I wouldn't say it's dramatic. When you compare this 8L90 to the old 545 RFE, it's a completely different world. When you compare it to the 4-speeds, it's a completely different planet. So in the earlier JKs, if you want to do a Gen 4 swap, which I highly recommend the Gen 4 engines for the early JKs, they fit, they're legal. We've rationalized the swap over the last 10 years. Most of you know that we started doing Gen 4 swaps and JKs way back in 2008. Then contact John Schumacher at Overland Performance, and that's John at overlandperformance.com. John, as we've discussed in previous videos, has taken the Gen 4 JK swap to a new level. He's going to continue to support this swap. It is an excellent swap. Don't overlook it. If you have a late model JK, let's say 14, 15 and newer, you want to remain compliant, look at the LT. If you have an earlier model JK and you just want to go with the latest and greatest technology, look at the LT. So let's recap. In my opinion, the L83 8-speed is going to make the best overall engine for your JK. Why? It's inexpensive, runs on regular gas, has plenty of power, and the drivability is just awesome on and off-road. Now, I will say that some guys that do some really hardcore stuff off-road do have some complaints about the tuning, not only in the LS or the LT, but the Hemis. They want more deceleration braking, or they want less throttle follower. So all that will have to be sorted in the tune. But as far as overall drivability goes, 95% of my customers like the stock tune out of the box. GM has added torque management, axle protection, clunk, anti-clunk, you name it. These LTs have so much torque, you will shred a Dana 44 with a 6.2 LT like never before. So by staying with the stock tune, you have the safety, the drivability, the longevity, etc. The L83 8-speed is going to be the engine of choice for most of you. The 6.2, it's going to come down to the L86 and the LT1. Now there is the new L87, which is the new stop-start. I don't know how many of you are really interested in stop-start. I have it on my JL, I have it on our Chrysler Pacifica, and I'm an old-fashioned guy, and when I come to a stop and the engine dies, my heart skips a beat just for that one momentary second. So I'm not a real big fan of stop-start. I also feel that stop-start leads to wear on things like the starter motor, battery, engine bearings. Of course, these manufacturers have designed starter motors, lower ends, to handle the stop-start. At some point, we do hope to offer that functionality in the JLs because the JL offers it. Now, we are lucky because the JL does allow you to turn off stop-start. Some vehicles don't. The LT1, we can run with a 6-speed, with an 8-speed, and of course the new upcoming 10-speed. So it's going to be very versatile as far as your transmission choice goes. Personally, my opinion right now is the LT1 8-speed is the way to go. This combination has arrived. Doesn't mean that other combinations still don't make sense. If I had an old hot rod and I put an LS3 in it, I'd still be really happy because I'm not looking for maximum economy. I'm not looking for the latest, greatest technology. If I want to run through the desert, I still might go with a 6-liter Gen 4 because it's as rugged as you can get. Iron block. There is no direct injection. Now, in closing, this is a really important thought. I would say that this engine, which can sit here and pull this JK at the speed limit at 1500 RPM effortlessly, idle at 500 RPM, can perform with the last generation of 500 horsepower crate motor. If you took a 480 horsepower LS3 or a 525 horsepower LS3, even a 470 horsepower Hemi 6.4, this engine's going to run with it. Difference is this engine's going to idle at 500 RPM. This engine's going to run off-road like a stalker. Your wife will drive this Jeep to the store. In fact, my wife has driven LTs to the store with 0 complaints. So one of the biggest advantages of the LT is not its fire-breathing horsepower, it's the docile horsepower. you have an engine now that'll run with 500 horsepower crate engines with cams, but you can take it off-road, wheel it all day like it was a stocker, because it is. So we're going to hit the mountain with this LTJK. Just a heads up, on the next couple of videos, we're going to be putting a supercharger on an LS engine. It's an LS3. Try to get 550 to 600 horsepower out of it comfortably and maintain drivability. Hopefully we're going to have some videos up on our JL. It is running awesome. It has a 5.3 L83 in it, and we've been getting a lot of requests for the JL LT build. It really makes sense when you consider that the JL and the LT are coming from the same era. We're not going to stuff an LS into a JL, nor are we going to compromise on our transmission or any of the other components in the build. We want the JL to be what it's supposed to be. So we'll see you in the next video.